All right.
Dang.
You know what it is. You know who it is. We are back. I apologize for last week. It seems our recording thing may be experiencing some problems. We're trying to figure out
hmm
what it is exactly. So, if there are any technical difficulties we get to today on the episode, give us patience because we are trying to figure it out.
hmm
And Jerry, your screen is clear now. So
Let's hope it
now it
stays
went
that
back. As
way.
soon as I said that,
There's a bit
literally
of
as
a
soon as I said
delay
that, it went in.
too, so
All right.
we'll see how
Well,
it
we're
goes.
gonna try to deal with it today. Today, actually, Jerry, I didn't even get to check in. How was the week? How are we feeling? How's being out in Colorado?
It's good. It's been good. Feeling good. Training's been great. I started up with a couple new clients. They're doing really well. Getting really good feedback from them. So it feels good to be building up a little bit more now that I'm back here too. It's been super dry, but it is cold and I love it. And that's pretty much
Beautiful.
everything. Yeah. How about you?
All right. Good. Training hard. Good influx of clients into the new year. Got I think four new online clients, one new in-person client, and then got a couple more leads I'm working on as well. So that's good in regards to the coaching.
hmm
And then outside of that, just been traveling a little bit to like card shows and whatnot. But
Yeah.
training's been going really well. I'm feeling good. I've taken a good like rest from running, but I think it's been a little bit cold, so I'm not going to do anything like soon. But I'm
Yeah.
feeling ready soon to kind of get back into the running here.
Getting the
Yeah, I don't know,
itch.
next month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think I'll be ready. But yeah, outside of that, things have been good. I got some cool stuff coming in the next probably month or so. Going to be working on some Coach Connect stuff. Going to be working on some BGPerform stuff as well. But for right now, got the podcast, killing this, being consistent,
hmm
and
hmm
yeah, so it's good.
Being consistent, even though our
But
equipment
yeah, so
sometimes isn't, we are here.
yeah, we're consistent. We show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Well, actually, also the behind the design. If you haven't seen that, please check it out. That's on the OPEX YouTube. You can just go right to OPEX Fitness on YouTube, and you can see behind the design with myself and Daniel Pearson or Person. I think is how you pronounce the last name. I should have asked him that. I think it's
Yeah.
Person. That's how you say it, but it's Swedish, so there's probably some random letter in there that doesn't make sense. But so me and Daniel have been working together on this project along with OPEX to create a new series behind the design where we dive into a lot of specific programming topics and avatars and things like that. And it's been moving really smooth, so I'm super excited about that. And we've been doing it every Tuesday. We go live at 10:30 Eastern time. So if you want to check that out, it's always on YouTube every single week. But the full episodes are on YouTube as well right now. So I guess there's supposed to be a huge snowstorm here in the Northeast.
There's supposed to be a huge snowstorm pretty much everywhere, dude. Texas is about to get 9 inches of snow.
That's crazy.
Texas, of all places. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
gonna be bad. But I don't know if it's supposed to snow as bad up here. I was just listening to some stuff that they were talking about it. But anyways, today we're gonna be talking about non-negotiables as a coach in
hmm
2026. It's a new year, new me, right? But as a coach, there's things we have to be doing now to be successful and make sure that not only is our business successful, but also making sure we're getting results for our clients and the people around us. And to me, that means there's things we have to be doing on a daily basis, right? And I think sometimes, or at least for a very long time, it was very easy to kind of get away as being a coach with not doing some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But I think that you have to hold yourself to a standard, and like this is something I've been talking about for so long and something that I always hold myself to. And you see the difference, and I see it every single day around the people that I work with, I would say, or in the same vicinity as. I think it'd be better I don't work with them, but they work in the same place as me. And even just talking to coaches regularly, there's things that I see as normal inside my business or the way that I treat my clients or that sort of thing, and they aren't. And I think it shows. And I think that if you want to make this a career, if you want to make this something that's important for the rest of your life or a big piece, then the things we're going to talk about today, like you need to be doing these consistently to find success, but also to make sure long term you're able to even build a foundation for this.
Yeah. I think that there are a lot of things that we should be doing daily. We're going to obviously cover a lot of them, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the more time I spend in the industry, the more time or the more people I see where I'm just like, how are they not doing this just naturally? But
Yeah.
we'll get into it a little bit
It's
here.
almost
So
like you should be somewhere else working with somebody
um,
else, but I just can't put my name to the guy. But anyways, we'll figure that
suddenly
out
I
another
feel a
day.
magnet pulling me toward your
So
face. It's weird.
we I have two separate things here, right? And obviously
Hmm.
when we're discussing this, there's going to be some differences from in person to online, but we're going to kind of discuss both non-negotiables that you need to have in 2026 and what they are as an in-person coach and then an online coach. And I think a lot of us hope to one day be an online coach. So I think a lot of the in-person stuff needs to start first here,
Hmm.
right? You need to have that experience before you actually get to the online, which I've talked about a bunch. But let's dive into the in-person first and just kind of like I'm going to rattle off the things that we wrote and then I just want to kind of have some conversation about it as we go. So we'll just fill in the blanks, right? So the first one
Hmm.
that I wrote, and these are in no particular order, but a set schedule. And I think this is something that's really important because I think having a schedule set for clients to see and say, I work during this time and then I end working at this time is really important. And I think it's important for your lifestyle. I think it's important for you to actually have a business or a life outside of it. I'm all for like if you're single, don't have anybody else in your life, like go for it. If you got to work at
Yeah.
6 a.m. and then 6 p.m., you do it. You know what I mean? Like take advantage of the time, be the person that can show up whenever, wherever. I'm still that way to a certain degree, although there are other aspects of my life that I have to worry about now. But I think that once you get to like you being that person for a really long time allows you to kind of create that true schedule that you want.
Hmm.
But I think it's really important to kind of have the outlines of a full schedule on your plate, right? And something that you can send to people and say, I train during, like for me, it's 6 a.m. to about 1 to 2 p.m. I'll train in person, and the rest of my day is usually dedicated towards online stuff. I'll always take people later in the night if it makes sense, if it's the right client, the right fit, that sort of thing. But it's really important to kind of say like, all right, I like if I want to build my dream schedule or my job, or I want to make this as perfect for myself as possible so I can truly enjoy it, then I want to know what the schedule is that I want to work around, right? You can't just kind
Hmm.
of go into the day and let the clients that you pick dictate that, or the clients that come to you dictate that, because then you're just going to be like fitting into their schedule. And I think it's really hard at that point for, early, like I said, early on, it's simple. It's like, all right, I got nothing else to do anyways. It's just like whatever they want me, whenever they want me, cool, right?
Hmm.
But if you don't set the schedule, if you don't set the working hours, if you don't set the boundaries, then when it does come down to it, it's like, hey, I've been doing this for 5 years. I want to start to set a schedule, or I want to start to, only work till a certain point, or I have things that I want to do, or places that I want to go, and you end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot by not setting those boundaries or having that schedule early on. And I think someone like Jerry right now, or Jerry's had a lot more experience in the having a schedule set by like
Hmm.
working at places or working out of places, whereas I've, for the most part, outside of making the schedule at Thrive, when I had my first gym, very I think one other time I worked where I had like a set schedule that I had to be somewhere at like a certain time. So I've always kind of set my schedule and kind of had that. And only as of recently, because again, like I said, I was someone who was like, hey, when do you need me? Where do you need me? I'll be there. And it was only really as of recently that I was like, hey, I want to try to keep my in training or my in person training in the morning and then have that freedom in the afternoon to work on online, work on the other projects I have. That I had to really kind of take that step. And that was something I felt for a really long time was like, I could be better at this, and I could have a better schedule, and that's something that I kind of like set in stone for myself.
Yeah, I've had like really fortunate and unfortunate working schedules. Like I've been on a split shift where you start at 6 a.m., you don't finish until 9 p.m. because you go from 6 until 1. have lunch, eat super fast, start back up at 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then you finish at 9 p.m. And then you open a different gym the next day at 4:45 in the morning just to work until 9 p.m. again that night. So I've gone from there where I'm working like 65 hours a week between both gyms, strictly just training. And then on top of
Yeah.
that, you have the programming outside. And then I've also had like the 6 to 2 in a facility where I'm pretty free in the afternoon and evening. And right now I'm kind of in the middle where I have like some days I have to go in early and most days I'm there late. I'm training athletes that are primarily middle school, high school, and for them all their training is post school, so they're not available during the day or morning at all. So my typical schedule right now is like everything is jammed between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., which is kind of hell in my opinion because I try to work out in the morning and like wake up early, but when you get home late, you eat dinner late, you can't fall asleep until a little bit later. It kind of messes up the schedule a little. So no matter what, having your set schedule and building boundaries around it is important. Taking it one step further, if you do have clients, making sure they're not floating clients. It's okay to have like one or two. They're like maybe they're at this time on a Tuesday and this time on a Thursday. Next week they're on a Wednesday and a Friday. But for the most part, try to keep your people in a set, like, all right, for you, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
Be there. That's really important. Not only because it helps you understand what's to come for the next week and it gives you a nice schedule. You don't have to try and like scramble, but it's consistent for them and it's less work for you in the sense of just showing up. You just got to show up at that point.
Yeah, it's predictable. Like predictability.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
you need. You need predictability inside your
hmm
schedule because that's how you can grow. How you can know like, hey, all right, I know I have a set schedule from like 6 a.m. So for the most part, like for me, for example, I know I have a set schedule from about 6 a.m. till about 12. I'll say about 2 p.m. That's really like
hmm
I know where I'm going to be on what days and that sort of thing. And then 2 p.m. on is more like how am I feeling? What else do I need to get done? Do I have to go anywhere? Do I have
hmm
appointments? That sort of thing. And that helps me because I know like, hey, if I can fit everything in this block, that's my work day, quote unquote. And then
hmm
everything else is just extra credit or allows me to grow the business or grow myself as an individual. And I think that if you don't set that schedule, like Jerry just said, like it can become, put it lightly, like a living hell when it's like I have to be here and then here and then here and then my schedule's dictated by a bunch of floating clients who are like, oh well, I got out of work a little bit late or this and that, and it's like, well, that doesn't really work for my personal schedule because now you're taking away from personal life and that sort of thing, right? And I
hmm
think it's so important to have that schedule set early on in your career, and then you can choose to go outside of that if you want, right? So it's
hmm
like if you just go up and you're like, hey, I'll train you whenever you want, wherever you want, and you start having this crazy schedule that you're basically because I hate dead space. Like I would
Yeah, it's the
rather
worst.
train 6 clients back to back than I
Yeah.
would like one and then an hour and then one and then 2 hours and like I
100%.
hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it. And like for me, I'll avoid it at all costs if I can. And wherever that bunched time gets me to, like right
hmm
now, my latest client is like 1:30 to 2:30, and I won't go after that for the most part. I do it for one person, and that's it. And it's like that's where you have to really put your foot down and build that schedule so that you're not missing out, or I shouldn't say missing out. You're not falling into that trap of like wherever they want to train, I got to train them. It's like I'm your coach, but I also have a life and things that I want to do outside of that.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard for coaches to build that boundary because it's hard to explain to a client like, "Hey man, I'm a person too." Because they look at you as the professional. They're like, "Well, I'm paying for this service. Like, shouldn't you
Yeah, and
meet my
obviously they
schedule?"
only
And
see you for an hour.
yeah,
You
so
know?
they don't really that for as far as they know, it's like, all right, well, they work for an hour right now. Who knows what they're doing the rest of the day?
Yeah,
But that's why it's important as a coach to have those boundaries and kind of place that ahead of time. This way, you avoid difficult conversations because you don't want a client saying like, "Well, you told me I could train whenever, right? Or you said that you're gonna train me. This is when I'm available." So have that conversation ahead of time. Set your schedules, and I agree 100%. I'd rather go 6 hours back to back clients than have all that dead space, like all in the
yeah.
middle, and then do it again later. It's just That's draining, and you have
There's
to
nothing
understand
worse than
yourself
like,
as
all right, I
a
got an hour
coach.
in between. Yeah, I got an hour
Yeah,
in between, and it's like, all right, I could go home, but by the time I get home, I have to turn around and come all the way back. So it's just
yeah,
you
and
just
then I'll
sit
have
there,
5 minutes to spare. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So set a schedule, set it at ASAP, and make sure it's structured and easy to understand. From there, I would say the next thing is SOPs, and under the SOPs, which is like standard operating procedures, pricing, your own work schedule, the expectations that you have of your client, the expectations they're going to have of you as a coach, because that sets the tone of what it's like working with you. Soon as someone
Hmm.
starts working with me, I have the initial call with them, which is about 15 minutes to tell them how I think I can help and setting up that consultation date. Once you have that full 1 hour consultation with me, which costs money, right? And that first consultation, really, and this is something I learned from one of my current clients who's also a very successful trainer. She had originally kind of mentioned to me, like, hey, charge for that consultation because that is what separates, that's what stops you from like getting time wasted. And you can
Hmm.
make that decision after. If it's like, hey, I'm not going to charge this person because of X, Y, or Z problem or whatever exception, that's fine. But have that there first. So it's like I charge for my consultation, and then that money, if you decide to keep working with me or to start working with me, that money goes towards your first month, right? If
Hmm.
not, worst case, it doesn't. You still get paid for that time, and that gets put towards moving on. At least you just didn't waste that hour, helping someone because you are helping someone in a consultation, right? But
Hmm.
all of this has to be written out in your standard operating procedures or on something that people can read, that it can get sent to them, and that they can take it, read it, know what's going on, what to expect, and not be blindsided by some of this stuff, right? Inside of that as well, cancellation policy, session cancellation policy. How do you get paid? Do you accept Venmo, Cash, PayPal? What is it that you're looking to get paid on? And all of that, because that's going to make it so easy to just hand the client. It's their responsibility to read it, and then you have them sign like a waiver or a contract along with that, so that confirms that they read it, and that takes all of that off of you. So if there's any conversation that comes about after that, it's like, hey, no, listen, like I sent you all this, you
Yeah.
signed this, it's all here. So like that's it. And I think early on in my career, I fell victim to not doing any of that because I didn't want to like scare the client away, or I didn't want them to
Hmm.
be like, oh, like this whatever thing might come up. And then you have to have these hard conversations, and you set yourself up to have those hard conversations when those conversations become very simple. And the fact that it's like, hey, you signed this, I told you
Hmm.
what the deal was working with me, and that's it, right? And I think that was that was something I had to do with recently. I had a client who like canceled, and they were like fairly new client, and they canceled like back to back sessions. And I was like, cool, that's fine. This one I'll let slide, but
You
this
get
one I'm
like a
charging.
freebie.
And I got a little like I got a little pushback from, it. And I was like, well, listen, I told you this, so like
Hmm.
don't get an attitude, right? And like this is how it is working with me. If you don't want to do it, then like that's fine. But I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it, right? Like that's not gonna happen
Yeah.
because if you let that happen, then you lose respect. They can do it again, and they continue to do it, and that's where the SOPs come into place, right? Same thing with pricing. Have it written down, and then you can make the decision from there about what you want to do, right? If you
Yeah.
want to charge someone less for some reason or charge someone more for some reason, right? Whatever it might be, just have a set pricing structure that at least gives them a general idea of like, hey, here's what I charge for this many sessions, and that's it, right? And I think also under SOPs is your own working schedule, which I kind of just set, right. When I said set your schedule, it's like set your training schedule. With your
Hmm.
working schedule, it's like what are the hours of operation of your business, right? So is it when can someone contact you? When can they expect to have you stop responding at some point in the night? Again, having these things are very important. You can choose to go outside of them if you choose, but having them sets the tone early on of like, hey, I'm going to answer you at like 9 a.m. and I'm going to stop answering you at like 5 p.m., right? Anything outside of that, I'll get to the next morning unless it's an emergency or something comes up. And in which case, you know, if it's that big of an emergency, you probably need to call an ambulance or something like that, right? But anything else can be handled on the app or with critical thinking and kind of understanding like, hey, I've done this in the past. And if you're new, this is something I always tell my clients as well, and this is something I write into the SOPs as well in the early part of training, Go over it the night before. Ask questions the night before. Look over things so that you can ask the question so you're not going into the gym being like, oh, well, I have a question. And then he's not
Mm-hmm.
answering or he's not right next to his phone or computer. Set yourself up for success. Look the day before. Go through everything. Have all that laid out so you can ask those questions, get them answered, and go into the gym and get a nice full workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. And again, this
Anything to
all
add to
comes
that?
down to,
Uh,
yeah, I was gonna say this all comes down to, sorry, bit of a delay, to
Very
that
good.
that coaching boundary. So if you're setting this stuff up, like Brandon said, you avoid the hard conversations later, and it's just all just standard procedures. I will say with having your own schedule too, um, knowing when, so during your hours of operation for your business, knowing when you're going to be programming is huge. Trying to set a time aside to do that during the week, whether it's once, twice, 3 times a week from whatever time to whatever time you're programming, that's going to keep you on top of everything. The last thing you want to do is wait for one day to program for everybody. So not only you're setting your training hours and your hours of operation, but you're setting when you're getting your programming done, your client calls. Try to make dedicated days for it. This way you don't have to be like, oh shoot, I have like 4 client calls I didn't schedule this week. Let me do it at the end of the week.
Yeah.
That's the main thing
Yeah, and
of
I
that.
think, like I said, this is, and we're going to get into some of that too with the online stuff because I think it's really important on the
Yeah.
online stuff, but we'll save that for there. The next one I'm going to bunch into like we had like three, but I'm going to bunch into one, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
consider this to be like I guess more of like the personal side of it, right? Like one, leave your shit at the door as a coach, right? Like they're coming in to have the best hour of their day. If you're upset, if it's that bad, then you shouldn't be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's that bad that you can't hold it, then like you should not be at that session. Don't take that out on someone who's paying you for a service, right?
Yeah.
So leave your shit at the door. Please show up early. Don't be rushing in last minute every single session, being like, "Oh, sorry," blah, blah, blah. Then you got to go rush and get everything set up. You should be there. You should be there waiting for them most of the time, like whether it's in the gym or greeting them. Obviously, sometimes things happen, like if someone asked you to come in earlier than the normal time, like I just had this happen this week. My client asked me to come in a different day and an hour earlier than they're usually in, and I'm working out. So it's like when I finish working out, it might be a couple minutes. You just got to wait, and that's just what happens because I'm essentially changing my schedule for you. So
Yeah.
so that's where it fits in. Normally though, be there early, be on time, have a plan, right? Like that was the last thing. So show up early, leave your shit at the door, and have a plan. Me and Jerry were kind of talking about this before, but like as a coach, you should always have a plan, right? Like there should be at no point should you be walking into the gym, no matter what you're doing, how you're training, how you're like who you're training. At no
Yeah.
point should you walk in and say, "Oh, well, let me think about what I'm going to do today," right? Like there should always be an outline. And to be completely honest, like if someone says they don't have a plan, then that to me would be like a red flag as a coach, right?
I don't trust him as a
Because that
coach.
just
Yeah.
means, yeah, that just means to me that you're either making stuff up or you're going to miss out on details, right? Because when you plan, that's when you actually get the most out of a session because you have everything written out and then you can decide where you want to make changes from there. If you're just walking into the gym, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this happen where it's like someone walks in late, they're writing the session, planning the session, 5 minutes before the person walks in, and then you see them on the floor and it looks like they're lost. And
Scrambling. Yeah.
because yeah, it's scrambling. It's just like and then you know the feeling as a coach when you have a plan, you make the commitment to as best you can. You're human, obviously, but like as best you can to whatever's going on in your life, you leave it at the door and make sure you're focused on the person in front of you, and you show up early to make sure you can take that couple minutes because sometimes it's just taking a couple minutes. Like I've had times in a session where nothing's wrong, but I was running a little bit late. I feel flustered. I feel rushed. I feel bad, and I'm like all over the session. And then the person's just like, "Well, we're good. Like everything's fine." And I'm like, "All right, you're right. You're right." I'm just like in my own head because I'm late, and like that just sets you up for success in so many ways because you're there for the person. You're basically there um, to greet them and say, "Yo,
Mm-hmm.
what's up? 5 minutes. We're gonna set everything up. Hop on the treadmill. I'm gonna get a couple things ready." And it's like, cool, I'm here. I don't have to worry about it. When you have to sit there, like there's this couple people at my gym now. One dude in particular, and like he trains and his trainer doesn't even show up, and I'm like, I show up, this dude's getting paid to not even show up. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
You know what I mean? I've told you about this, but like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's there's no way you're gonna catch me having a client that like is getting there and showing up before me. First off, like it's very rare, if that I've ever had a
Mm-hmm.
client like show up before me because I'm always about 15 minutes early, and it's just one of those things where like you have to, because if you don't, you're gonna put yourself in a bad position, and the client's gonna start to lose respect, and that's it.
Yeah. There's so obviously we've talked about the leave your shit at the door, no bad days. My boss back at Next Level Strength and Conditioning in Rochester, Nate Van Kallenberg, the GOAT, he very first day of the internship, he was like, we're just gonna set ground rules. Like, there are no bad days. He was like, obviously we care, but if you're here, we don't care if your dog died, if your grandparents are dead, if you got shot in the hand. If you choose to show up, you're giving it your all. And that's where, like, if you're gonna choose to be there, you can't be moping around and being weird or whatever. It's just
Yeah,
all energy 100% of the time. Having a
exactly.
plan, you don't have to stick to your plan 100% sometimes. So let's say you have a plan, you have a skeleton, an outline, at least. Client comes in, you're like, how you doing? They're like, dude, I slept like shit, but I know I have to move today. I know I need to do something. Can we just take it light? You're like, sure, here's what we had. Let's change a few things, or let's move it down, or let's drop the weight a little bit, or let's just scrap it, and then we'll just kind of go through some motions. Whatever you do, you at least have some plan to work off of, no matter what.
Yeah,
My biggest pet peeve is when coaches say you don't need a plan. You can never know how a session's going to go. It's like, well, you can have an idea of how it's going to go, and 90% of the time, it's the fucking same as the last one. So
I
have a
agree.
plan. Don't be. It just comes off as like lazy and
It's
like
crazy.
when coaches try to act like it's like coaches who have plans like you can't do it, like they're trying to be like contrarian or like act like there's some god in the training world. It's just lazy. It's lazy coaching in my opinion. It's honestly worse than showing up late in my eyes. If you're gonna show up late and you at least have a
Yeah,
plan, you're like, hey, I'm so sorry. At least you
yeah,
have a
exactly.
plan. You didn't show up and be like, well, let me find out. Because then you're no different than the client who also came without a plan. So now it's just two idiots
Exactly.
standing in a room. It's just, I don't know what's going on.
This is-
So I mean, yeah, it's just no. But that's, I think, just have a plan no matter what. If you have to change the plan, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Just have
exactly.
something.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. Um, and then I think one of the last couple things is a quick assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to quickly assess somebody before a session. How's your day? How's your week? How are you feeling? Gauging that response, gauging the body language, gauging the facial expressions from there, and being able to make decisions and make changes where you need to make changes. Just something that you have to kind of have practice with and understand. You'll get the as you see the same individuals, or as you see individuals in general and they walk in the gym, you can tell their normal pep in their step, or when they're a little bit happier, or when they are pissed off, that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to that, and knowing, hey, okay, I'm asking like, hey, how was your weekend? And you get the, yeah, I mean, it was good, right? As opposed to, hey, how was your weekend? I was like, oh, it was so cool. Like, we went here, did this, boom, blah, 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 whatever. Like that's a different type of energy. And you can start to kind of gauge those things and start to quickly assess. And this is where the plan comes in place, right? Because, when you don't have a plan and you're just walking in and you're just making stuff up based on whatever's in front of you, you know, that's where you start to get yourself into problems where it's like, all right, I'm not only having to assess this individual that's in front of me, I'm having to create the workout while I'm sitting here and trying to assess as I go, as opposed to being like, hey, I had squats, RDLs, lunging planned. So I'm just going to swap out the lunge for, a little bit of a less intense movement. I'm going to go a little bit lighter on the squats. And you can just change the framework as opposed to having to design an entire thing based on how someone feels, right? But the quick assessment is just getting used to it, asking the right questions, and understanding who's in front of you so that you can know when and where you need to make changes and why.
Agreed. I don't even have anything to add to that.
Cool.
That's great. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And
Just
then,
like you.
so the last thing, the last thing I want to add is going to be a transition because I think this is something that needs to happen in both. And I'm not going to go. There are some things which I'll discuss that are the same online, I believe, but there's a couple like main pieces of online that you need to be there as non-negotiables, right? But weekly program design. Now, you
Hmm.
can write your programs a month in advance. You can kind of write the framework a month, whatever you think. You need to be going back weekly and looking at the design to make sure it's progressing properly. If there is anything, because sometimes when you write program uh, prescription or design or whatever you want to call it, your mind is somewhere else in that time. And I have moments where I'm just firing on all cylinders and I'm like, boom,
Hmm.
perfect, boom, perfect, boom, perfect. I have some times where I struggle, right? And I always make sure to go back because I want to make sure, was this what I meant? Is there things I need to clean up? This is something I just had a conversation with one of my online clients about. Is I was leaving comments from like the week before, or I was leaving old comments which were more of me uh, just forgetting those little details. And it
Hmm.
was like, hey, do 8 reps, but then I had in the comments like 10, and he was like, well, which one is it?
Yeah,
Or this
which
is just
yeah.
confusing, or it's kind of like taken away from the session. This is I was just like notorious problem I had, and it's just literally me like skipping over that little detail, right?
Hmm.
Now, what do I need to do for that? Is I've been since that time I've been really going back, making sure everything is clean, the comments are simple, there's no fluff, there's nothing that doesn't need to be there, and being very intentional with that stuff, right? But you only
Hmm.
do that if you go back weekly and make sure the design is meant to be for that week, the notes, the sets, the reps, the tempos. Even if you write it a month in advance and just briefly go over it that week and say, cool, this is still good, this is still good, this is like simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Because online or in person, some of that stuff changes week to week. But we as coaches, like our job is to coach, our job is to program, and our job is to create, right? But we need to have constant eyes on what's going on so we can make sure we're moving in the right direction and we're seeing those things before they happen. It's just like the stock market, right? It's like if you're into that sort of thing or investing, it's like you have to kind of see the problems before they arise, right? And in
Hmm.
our eyes, it's fitness, it's movement, and if you're not paying attention to some of those things, you're gonna miss out on the details, right? And that kind of goes into the next thing. Which actually, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually had a conversation today, like literally this morning, about that same thing. Because last night my client in Boston messaged me underneath her bench press. It says wide feet, shoulder blades tucked, head, back, and butt all on bench. And she said my whole back. And I was like, okay, I can understand. Like it might come across that way. So
My
I said
whole back.
my whole back, butt, and balls. she said. She said my whole back, and what I meant to say was your upper back, period. Lower back will have a natural arch, and I put a flexing arm. What I wrote was upper backs, lower back will have a natural arch. And then she said, LOL, okay, good. And I read it this morning and I said, I can't believe you read that and knew what I meant. I'm the worst texter. So she's a professional editor and writer. So she basically told me it's a
Oh, she
thing.
destroys your grammar. She'd hate me.
Well, no, no. So she was like, "Don't worry, I do it too." So she said it's a thing. The professional writer editor tip is to change the font, and your brain will catch it more. But sometimes that's overkill with text. I said, I don't know if you could do that. And she said she's literally
Oh,
hit
that's a good idea.
publish. Yeah,
I'm gonna
she
write
said
that
she's
down.
looked 10 minutes at an article or whatever that she's publishing. She's read through it for 10 minutes and been like, "Yup, it's perfect." Hits publish and finds it immediately. And then she's just like, "Oh my god, there's the typo."
That's crazy.
So it's it's important. That's why going back is huge because I've had moments where like I'll program out for all my clients and then I'll go back and I might have like for a goblet squat, it'll say 10 reps per side and it's like, well, you don't do that per side if it's a goblet squat. So it's like
Yeah.
those little things, that's my thing. I miss my per side. I mean to delete it or write it out and I'll forget sometimes. So I'll always go back and check the per side because of that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think, and I think that goes on both, right? You need to do that for in
Mhm.
person. You need to do that online. The
Exactly.
couple
Yeah.
other things that I think translate over from in person to online are a set schedule, right? And I think this one matters so much online
Mhm.
because you don't have like if you're strictly an online coach, you got to create your own work schedule, right? Because it's so easy to be like, oh, well, I don't really have a day. I don't have to be anywhere. I just got to kind of like program and whatever. Have a schedule. Have like, this is something I learned from one of my mentors, Sam Smith. He sets time aside every single day to do program design, right? And that's because he
Mm-hmm.
has a ton of clients. But I've adopted that in the way of like, I have an hour each day, Monday through Friday, where I sit down and I do some type of programming, right? And then that's built into my work schedule. So that's like an hour of my day is totally dedicated to just program design for either looking over design, writing design, prescribing design, whatever it might be. And then I have some review time on Saturday or mostly on Sunday to just go over and make sure everything's good before the beginning of the new week, cleaning up any of those details, the notes, that sort of thing, right? So making your own schedule when you're an online coach is so important, right? On top of that, constant communication, right? You have to keep up with this. We've talked about this 100 times, especially me and Jerry have talked about this 100 times. If you're an online coach, you're not seeing this person in real time. So you have to check in, you have to talk, you have to message them, you have to make sure you're getting all the details that you're missing on not being there in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, on top of that, you don't want to overdo it. You don't have to message them all day. It's just a quick check-in a couple times per week saying, hey, how are we feeling? Was there anything, right? Was there anything that came up? Anything that I need to know? That sort of thing. And then, Jerry, I'm going to kind of like put a couple of these into the same bucket and then we
Okay.
can talk about them. Because on top of that is like requiring feedback, right? So constantly communicating with them and requiring feedback. I can't tell you how many times early on I had clients who were online and they just wouldn't write anything. They wouldn't tell me the notes. They wouldn't tell me what sets, this and that. And it was just, it's impossible. Like, how are you supposed to progress anything if you don't know what you're progressing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's such an important thing where it's like you have to constantly communicate with them. You have to make sure that you're getting all those details, and you have to require feedback. You have to make sure they're writing what they did, how they felt, and progressing on from there.
Yeah, that's it's funny because I don't know why it popped in my head, but I had that one guy who was like, "I'm a nudist, no offense, and I'm a smoker, no
Oh
offense."
yeah,
Like some people overshare way too much, but some people just
yeah,
forget to let you know what's going on. So I
yeah.
apologize if you have a nudist, no offense, and a smoker, no offense as your client online, but if you don't and they're not writing anything, it's all right to just be like, "Hey, just a like a reminder, don't forget to write stuff. I need to know how the exercises feel or at least what weights you're using so I can know if what we're doing is working over the long run." So,
Yeah, and I think it's as simple as that. It's just require the feedback.
hmm
If they're getting to that point, shut it down, set the
yeah, it's
boundary.
too much feedback.
You know, too much feedback, way too
Can
much
I wear a
feedback.
jock strap to our
Um,
consultation? No, you
that's
cannot.
crazy. That was
You
definitely
don't
some
accept
sort
my
of like fetish.
lifestyle. What'd you say?
That was some sort of fetish, 100%.
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, but
Like
anyways,
he's all the way in
so
Ohio as I'm in Colorado. He says, "No offense, I'm a smoker." It's like, dude, what do you think I'm breathing in your smoke over here?
who knows?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so require the feedback and the tracking, that sort of thing, right? And
Cool.
the last two that I think are actually the other things, SOPs, right? Having those SOPs for online, same idea, pricing, um, you know, the hours of operation, what the expectations are as a client, what are the expectations as a coach, and all that stuff needs to get put into the online program as well as a waiver in the contract, so that those are it confirms you read all this, you know what we're talking about. If this comes up, here's the conversation, right? And the last thing I think is the last two things are just like you would take time to program, take time to read the notes, right?
Yes.
Require the feedback and then take time to read the notes. Take time to see what they're writing, how they're feeling, because you can get a lot from those notes just by making time to do it. And what I do is I have a time on Friday that I go back when I am reviewing my program. So basically how I set my week up is I have my in-person sessions and then I have my online work time, but I also have my programming time, and then I have a time towards the end of the week where I review the prior week of programming, right? I make sure everything, because I usually start my program design on Monday, and then I usually have it done for the most part by Thursday
Mm-hmm.
afternoon. And then Friday is more of a review day for me. So I review the week of workouts. How did they do? How were the progressions? What were the weights looking like? That sort of thing. And then I just run through quickly the week of that I had programmed for the following week, or the following week, and I make sure everything's good, everything's still on track. If I need to change anything, that sort of thing. But I read the notes. I make sure it's like, ooh, this didn't look good, or oh, this didn't feel good, or I thought I could do 8 reps here, but I only did 6. It's like, cool. I'm gonna build that into the progression. Like I just had my client Daniel. He built up to a weight, and then he got the first the first week he did it for 8 reps, the heavy set. Then I wanted to do 8 across, but he did like 8, 8, 6, 6. Then I said, okay, cool. We're gonna do 8, and then we're gonna do 6, 6 for that week. Then the next week we're gonna do 8, 8, 8, 6, and then the last week we did 8, 8, 8, 8. Right, so we built up to getting 8 reps across, and he crushed it. Right, and that's the progressions you can see if you start to read the comments, and you don't miss out on those details. Right, and that's the really important part of those, by also seeing the feedback, seeing the videos, and then kind of progressing through there. But make time in your schedule, because that is your job. That's part of your job as an online coach. If you do individual design, if you just do like the random plan stuff, you're probably not listening to me anyways. But yeah, so take the time, make sure you're reading through the notes, taking notes on the notes, right? Like if you have Coach RX, there's a notes section. You can actually take notes from the client, and you can keep all that stuff. That way you can go back and design the programs how you need to and how you see fit. And yeah, so make time for it.
Yeah, there's been moments where I've looked back at notes. Like I'll ask a client, like, "Hey, how did this week go?" Because I speak to him on like a Monday, message him on a Friday again. I'm like, "Hey, how'd this week go?" And they'll be like, "Oh, it went really well." And then I'll look back at like the Tuesday workout, and it says something like, "Ooh, shoulder felt off, had a weird click in this movement only, but not this one." And it's like, well, like let's say it's a bench press and a dumbbell bench press. It's like, well, if you had a click in one, like why didn't it show up in the other? You can kind of look into it, ask them about it, and they're like, "Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, so it was just when I did this one thing." And it's like, "Oh, okay, there's the answer." So
Yeah.
looking back is important, because sometimes even though they write it down, they'll forget. Think of how many times during the week you write something down, type something out, and you're like, "Oh, dude, I forgot." Even sending a text message, you're like, "Oh, I forgot I messaged that person. They didn't respond. Let me message them again." So the same thing happens to your clients when they're recording their notes and results from their workout.
Yeah. So just make time for it. Make sure you do it, because it is part of the programming job, especially online, right? And the last thing is just consults and check-ins. And this kind of falls into the category of like a schedule. Have a scheduled time that you're going to do that stuff, or at least schedule it with the individual so you know ahead of time, and make sure you're doing these regularly. Once for online clients, for me, once a month we sit down, or at least hop on a phone call. Some people, they just don't want it. I was just a conversation I was having with one of the coaches recently, where it was like, do you have clients who take advantage of the monthly consult? And some of them don't. Some of them are just like, I'm good. I don't really need anything, whatever. After a couple months, I definitely like to at least talk with them and sit down just to get face-to-face time and have a conversation. But in those consult times, you're asking questions. How are they progressing? How are they feeling? Do they need anything? Is there anything they liked? Is there anything they didn't like? And it's just a good buffer to kind of have, since you don't see that person, to just see them face to face, hop on the phone, get some feedback, that sort of thing. So make time for that. And with the check-ins, I like to check in 2 to 3 times a week with my clients, whether it's messaging or just through the comment section on Coach RX. Just let them know I'm there, I'm watching, because there's nothing worse than like writing a bunch of comments and then just not getting any type of response, right? So it's
Yeah.
like good to just leave a little comment, check in, let them know you're there so they know you're watching, because that builds the buy-in as well. If you're going through this whole process and knowing like, hey, my coach isn't even watching me, so like I'm not even going to do it anyways, right? When you know you're getting comments like, oh no, he's watching, I know he's seeing it. It's like Santa, right? When you believe in Santa, well, Santa's real, right?
Yeah.
In case there's any kids listening, I saw him, I met him, but
Yeah.
I was him.
We got Tim Allen over here.
I forgot where I was going with that thought.
They know you're watching.
Listening.
You got that overseeing eye.
There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're going to be a good boy when you know someone's watching you. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like you're going to do everything you need to do. You're going to do the comments, the workouts, the how they're supposed to be done when you know someone's watching. When you don't, it's like, oh, I can get away with this. They're not looking anyways, right? So
Yeah.
that's where you mess up. Someone's always watching.
That sounded really good. I think you need to bring your mic a little closer. We need to get you an arm,
Did it?
a movable arm.
I
Yeah,
did.
it
I
sounds
did
really
a.
good.
I didn't. I didn't like the way that it sounded on the video that I did with behind the design. It sounded very cracky.
Oh, maybe it's peaking. You might be able to turn it down in the software. We can look into it. I got you.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
This setting adjusts how loudly others hear you. Okay, cool. I did that. Anyways, so yeah, someone's watching.
Yeah.
Do
All
your
coaches
workouts.
should be Santa Claus. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know
Pretty
when
much.
they're sleeping. Know when they're
Yeah.
awake. Know when they've
Climbing
been
their
bad or
bedroom
good.
windows. What? Climbing in your windows.
Whisper in their
snatching
ear.
people up.
What did you eat for breakfast?
If they've been
What did
naughty,
you
beat
eat
them
for
with
dinner?
coal. Like,
Exactly. Oranges
yeah.
doesn't leave bruises, right? That's the real
Yeah.
thing.
A sack of oranges, bars of soap, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whatever those
I
old
think that's it.
school. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
That's
I
the
like
mob
it.
mentality.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Non-negotiables
I
as a
think those are
coach.
the non-negotiables for 2026, the things you have to
Mhm.
be doing to be a successful coach in 2026. Is there any closing thoughts, Coach Jerry Hayes?
No closing thoughts aside from be Santa.
Be Santa. If you want to work with us, if you'd like us to be your Santa, www.bgperform.com/training. I promise you we won't climb in your window. If you want to work with us online or in person with me at ABC in Latham in New York, or at Kula Sports Performance, I think that's what it's called, in
Yes.
Colorado with Coach Jerry Hayes, or online with either of us through the Coach RX app, please reach out. Let us know. We can get everything sorted and started. Again, behind the design every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on OPEX Fitness. We also have the weekly newsletter going out if you haven't signed up for that. So come to the www.bgperform.com and there will be a pop-up to sign up for the newsletter. And this will always be released on Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I think that's everything. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.